What's up, family? This is Jada Wayne Garnett with Love is a Parable. What's up, family? A show designed to bring people together, and we believe everybody brings something to the table, and everyone's experience does matter. Before we get into the topic today, I do want to take a brief opportunity to allow our special guest an opportunity to introduce themselves and let them know who they are, and then we're going to wrap it up. Cordell, you come on the end. So, John, you started off. Let everybody know who you are.
You said John? I didn't hear you.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Yep. Yep. Tell the people who you are, who you be, who you is.
Okay. Cool. Well, good evening, everybody. This is John Clark, licensed marriage and family therapist here in the RDU area. Love what I do. Love speaking engagements. Love entertaining. Love engaging in different group discussions and just love talking about different controversial topics and try to be as humble as I know how. It's a pleasure to meet everybody.
Thank you. Reverend Carol.
Good evening. I'm Carol Diane Sampson, a citizen of Holly Springs dash slash Fuquay Arena. I am a chaplain at UNC Rex Healthcare. I am a soul carepreneur, and that means that I care for the soul in a spiritual way, or care for spiritual lives in a soulful way. And I'm just really glad to be on. I'm a prophetic spoken word artist, and all of that right there. I got a lot of stuff going on, and I just love people. And thank you for letting me be here tonight.
No, thank you for being on. Al, gonna tell them who you are.
What's up, family? My name is Al the Great, your neighborhood counterculturalist. I am all things counterculture, fashion, writing, speaking, all about, changing this culture and stop mainstream shame and cruelty.
Awesome. Now, Al, you're breaking up just a little bit, so I'm not sure. But Cordell, go on and tell them who you are, who you be, who you is.
Mm, Hey everyone, I am Cordell Gibson. I am the other half of the dynamic duo or tandem that host What's Up Family and also Brother Empowerment. Um, and I am someone who is always down to help wherever he can. And I like bringing people together. And so this is naturally the place where I love to be because we always have some people that are coming together in this avenue, this venue. So that's me.
Yeah. And thanks, bro. It's weird not having you in the studio and looking
Yeah,
at you on the screen, but
yeah.
I'm gonna adjust because I want to look this way, but I'm like, he's that way today. Um, Several things have been happening this week, but one of the most tragic situations was surrounding famed dancer and became Ellen's DJ and dancer Twitch, um, with what is has been announced at this point what appears to be suicide.
hmm
And one of the things that we see a lot of is people saying, this is the time now where the posts are coming out. Check on your strong friend. um, do a brother check in to make sure everything is all right. And to be honest, these things do happen quite often. Um, yeah, sure, John. Go ahead and sign out and sign back in. These things happen quite often, but what tends to happen a lot of times is it's like a fad. People will check on you for that week and then it goes away. Some will do it for a good, well, we'll say a week as a stretch, but as soon as something new or some new distraction happens, it goes away and until the next famed person commit suicide, and then we'll start this same thing over again. So I wanted to have a conversation more about how things would work, and just having a healthier conversation about it.
hmm
um Al say he's coming back, he's fixing his connection. You cool? So and that's the whole meaning of like having that conversation is I wanted to just make sure we can have a healthy exchange about it, to make sure that people are fully aware of different ways to look at it, so we can just have a healthier approach, you know what I mean?
hmm
So I think it made more sense to have Dr. John Clark on here, who kind of I respect him in several different ways. For one, people who don't know, he made me so mad I had to do a George Jefferson off a podcast.
Yo, for real.
Um, but we worked it out and really became friends. But for two, he started out as a life coach and worked his way up to becoming a licensed therapist and all of that. So he kind of experienced all the angles and all the sides. And I think it's good because, yes, you have some people who are therapists, but some of them went straight to the therapy route, didn't kind of do the hustle and bustle and kind of figure it out. And he does that. And I also like the fact that he's a man of integrity. Like, if we can argue and still work things out, it's cool with me. You know what I mean?
That's right.
So I definitely wanted to have an opportunity to have those type of conversations and exchanges as well, So what I'm going to do is I have a few statements and we'll just start.
For sure.
So the first one, how are you healing? This comes out of the mindset that all people always ask, how you feeling, how you doing? But how are you healing? Who want to take a stab at it first? Well, John, since you started, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, that's a deep question because when you look at the terminology of it, healing, we heal in many different ways, whether it's toxic or whether it's positive or heading down the right journey, the right pathway. That's a great question. So, like, I've been through some things in life. So if someone were to ask me how am I healing, what I would be like, well, I'm trying my best to take it one day at a time. I'm trying to stay positive. I'm trying to still be encouraging to other people. I'm still trying to be humble enough to learn from other people. I'm still praying. I'm still, trying to stay healthy. I'm still trying to stay involved. So if someone were to ask me that specific question, that's how I would answer it. But if they were to switch it up and just say, well, how how you living or how you doing, I might just give like a generic sentence. But that question kind of hit home a little bit just with that one term. But it really just depends on the person, y'all, because we all heal in some concerning ways. In actuality, a lot of us are not healing. We're just kind of grinding. We're going through the trenches, hoping and praying and wishing that we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But at the end of the day, we need to know how to heal in a way that works best for us, because there might be 6 to 10 different ways that the average person can heal, but it may not work for the average person. But I mean, it really just kind of varies. But yeah, I like that question. I actually might start switching my words up and just saying that, just to get more of a paragraph out of people versus a sentence.
Yeah, you're going to catch a lot of people off guard with that.
Yeah.
And you will.
Because they're going to be like, don't you mean how am I feeling? No. I was correct. How you healing?
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of times too, because in the space, like, I know, like, when it came to like people of faith, right? They usually treat healing as if it's one singular miraculous event
That part.
versus a lifestyle.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times people will say, I'm healed from that, or I'm healed from this. And really, as soon as you are healed and you stop, you back sick again. So I always wanted to know that, and we do have this little tagline we call healing forward, which means we're constantly healing and we're constantly moving forward. When we stop healing, we become stagnant. But I'm gonna stop there. Kara, you was about to say something?
Oh, I got a lot to say, but I'm thinking about, I really, I don't want to go too fast. I need for you to go ahead and probably before I start talking, I don't want to. I'll go ahead, and then you won't get to introduce what we're talking about. So can I have a minute? I want you to go ahead.
Yeah, you can have a minute.
That's a first, man.
Yeah, she's like, let me marinate on that. That's good.
Not a second over 60 seconds.
So am I talking, or am I waiting for you to say some more before I talk?
No, go ahead. It's free flowing.
Okay, so we're on the topic. Can I touch around the topic that we're going to discuss
Go
tonight?
however you want to go.
Okay. So I thought I was good until yesterday when you announced through Facebook that Twitch had passed away. And you didn't explicitly, I don't believe you explicitly said that he committed suicide, but I just got the feeling that that was the case. And when I saw it, I was like, no. And I hadn't watched Twitch every day. I've only, watched Ellen here and there. But something hit me very hard, and I didn't exactly understand what it was, but it stayed with me for the whole day. And of course, I ended up posting about my situation. Well, it turns out that my father died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in 1992, and later on that evening, it came up in a conversation, and I just kind of went into a space that I didn't realize I was still in. And I was trying to figure out why is this affecting me? Because I've been through a lot of tragedy and experienced a lot of tragedy in my family and my personal life. I said, why am I so triggered by his death? And then it hit me that my father committed suicide in much the same fashion. I mean, he didn't die right away, but yeah, I realized that I still had a root. I still had that in me, and it brought it up because I didn't get to grieve his death because I had to leave, my space and head down to Augusta, Georgia, to witness my father, there on the table, basically dead, but still on life support and that kind of thing. And I had to handle all of the funeral arrangements, and I didn't get to have closure. And I realized that even through the work that I've done as a minister and as a chaplain, you have to do a lot of soul work. I identified last night that that was a space that has not been healed because I never dealt with the grief of what I experienced. And I had only had 5 to 7 years where I was actually able to embrace my father as who he was. Hence, my last name was changed in 2018 to honor my father's life, because a lot of energy went into his life trying to identify with who he was and to honor him and to honor his grief and what he brought to the table in life. Even though I didn't get to spend a lot of time with him, that's where that was. And so that, how are you healing? I thought I was there, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What you about to say, John?
Say it again.
What you was about to say?
Oh, it was coming through my spirit then. But it's
Yeah.
like what you were saying earlier about, depression in general. Sometimes there's no warning, there's no alarm that goes off,
Mm-hmm.
there's no alarm that you keep pressing that snooze button. Sometimes it'll come out like a thief in the night. And
Yes.
the passing of a loved one or passing or death in general is nothing to play with. It's something that will definitely bother you. It's definitely a healing process. And just with the term healing, healing to me doesn't mean a stop sign. Healing
Mm.
means to me that it's an ongoing process. And it's okay to yield. It's okay to stop at times for a break, but we still got to keep healing forward. Kind of like Jay said earlier with this theme. Um, but like, yeah. And then, I had lost my first daughter back in 2019. She was getting ready to turn 2. So I know a lot about that grieving process of random triggers, birthday dates, hospitals, certain rooms, certain numbers, certain sounds, certain phrases, certain birthday parties. So the process over the past 3 years has been different because I had to create a new norm. That was my healing process. That was my grieving process. And still to this day, I still grieve. But what's worked for me is I've transitioned it into helping others. So twice a month, I put together a group at my office where we just talk about grieving. We talk about healing and we talk about losing loved ones because y'all, we need it. I mean, I
Yeah.
still need it. Even though I teach it, I'm still needing it at times. But yeah, not to go on a tangent, but I just wanted to piggyback off what you mentioned.
No, that's like real good. Cordell, you wanted to add anything?
Um,
Or you taking it into it like this one put everybody in a
yeah,
reflective state?
that's that's loaded. This hits me because there was a period in time when I first moved into my house that I was going through a lot at one time. Um, Going through a really bad, um, you know, uh, breakup that was very draining and very problematic. Um, Realizing that I had some very, very deeply rooted unresolved traumas that manifested in several different ways, and also, being alone. During that time, I did, of course. Not only was I in therapy, but I was doing a lot of reflection. And for me, uh, the reflective part of really just, well, I just say reflection in itself is a big part of the healing process for me. I have because of my parts of my childhood that were traumatic, I have a tendency to be very overly critical of myself. And so the reflection helps me balance that with figuring out where I'm teetering over the deep end, or where am I looking at things that can be improved or be tweaked. So for me, the healing process, reflection, is very heavy in that process. And yeah, this is heavy because I think that really, if just this simple question right here, even if people didn't know how to answer it, if we ask this more, I think, like you said, John, we get a paragraph out of some people versus a sentence or two words. You know,
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't immediate, might be delayed. I know it would be for me if somebody asked me this randomly on the street. So yeah, that's my contribution to that.
And it's so funny that that we have these conversations because it's things that connect us. Like Carol, I don't know if you knew that I'm from Augusta, Georgia, born and
Yeah,
raised.
I
Okay.
yeah, I remember that just the last time, not the last time, but yeah.
And the young lady who commented on the post when you were saying like, "Hey, just really pray for me right now."
Hmm.
How we met is when we started the Healing Forward campaign about 2 years ago.
Hmm.
She was using the Healing Forward hashtag as well.
Okay.
And I said, anybody who using the Healing Forward hashtag, I gotta meet. And she came on the show, and we've been friends ever since.
Uh-huh.
And she's that type of person where if she sees somebody in need, whether she knows them or not, she's going to reach out and offer some level of healing, some level of connection, some level of some type of meaningful interaction. And that's what I
Yeah.
like to see about Healing Forward, because we got to do this together. John said something very key, like we got to just come together sometimes. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a planned agenda. It just, we need each
Yes.
other. Sometimes that presence alone is
Yes.
medicine.
It is.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Al
Now,
was trying to
would
say
that be
something.
Monica or Monica? Was that
It's
her?
Monica.
Yes. I
Uh-huh.
connected. Yes. Yes. That's her spirit just really resonated because that's how I operate.
Yeah,
You know,
she's a
but I
wonderful
thank you
person.
for providing that space. I really do.
No problem. Al been trying to say something. I think the mic sound good now, Al.
Look, I don't know what it is. Been having some technical issues. Look, Spectrum sent me a text saying, "Oh, our speed is even faster," and it got worse. So I don't know.
But
Spectrum is not loyal.
look,
So if I was to answer this question, how are you healing? I would say, through prayer, through therapy, and and really going internal. I have noticed with myself, and just in just general like American culture, that we medicate, and I'm not even talking about just like drugs or
Hmm.
anything else. Like when we have an issue, we go outward instead of inward. Like for
Hmm.
me, for me it's food. And I realized for a long time ago, you know, I stopped using food as substance, and I was using it as a substance. So, and I think a lot of things like that, we do that. That's what we're taught. to medicate, to go outward, go get you some wine, go do this, go have sex, go do something to medicate yourself. And that is one of the things in this season I am trying to make sure and be intentional about, is going inward instead of outward.
That's good.
I love that, man.
That's
That's
good.
powerful there.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Salute on that, man.
So, kind of adding to it is another statistic that a lot of people don't talk about is men are 3 to 7 times more likely than women to commit suicide.
I believe it.
Any thoughts as to why?
We hold it in. A lot
Yeah.
of, like, I think one of the things I have loved out of this generation, out of where we are, like out of this gender fluidity, generation, like the idea of what it means to be a man has changed a lot. That has opened a lot of doors. And one of those is for men to be able to talk about their emotions and be able to actually talk about things. Because before, you're, as a man, you were supposed to be strong and silent. That's what it meant. You're supposed to keep everything in. You're not supposed to show a lot of emotion or show any emotion. Everything is supposed to be, internal. So I love that has changed because you keep it in, it's gonna go somewhere. And for me, the scariest thing was when I was in elementary school and I was in high school, I blacked out. And it scared me so badly. And I realized, like, even if you keep it in, those emotions are going to go somewhere. It's going to come out in some way. It's energy. It's going to come out. And it's going to come out in a way that you don't want it to. And to black out, man, that is a scary thing. To lose control over your body and wake up to a situation and you don't know what happened. Like, that's a scary thing. So definitely, that's one of the things I love right now.
I would definitely agree with you 1,000% on. I think that there's more conversation about it, about what is man and what is, masculinity and what is manhood, what is manliness. Like, people are kind of deconstructing the constructs around it.
Yeah.
But I remember in our first season, we had a friend on. Her name is actually, why is her name escaping me right now? Wasn't it Monica too? What is her name, bro? I can't think of her name. It'll come to me. But she said we have prepared basically men for masculinity and not humanity. Malika. Her name is Malika. She said we prepared men for masculinity and not humanity. And that
one more
has stuck
time.
with
I ain't
us.
hear you. One more time. Say it one more time.
We prepared men for masculinity and not humanity. And when she said that
is
man,
so good.
we about started to cry on the show in front of her.
Yeah.
Because
that's good.
Yeah, a lot of men, I believe we are conditioned to be of service or be a servant, but few of us are really afforded an opportunity to just be human. And we don't have enough conversations about that. Even down to, like, I remember growing up in the church. They would tell you what makes a man, what make you a man. They'll say, oh, you're supposed to love your wife and your family as Christ loved the church. But really all they taught you was how to be a slave. Because happy wife, happy life. You take care of your children, you leave an inheritance, you do these things, then you are a blessed man. But when do I ever get an opportunity to be a man? And so a lot of these ideals and a lot of these constructs are still carried on. So men know how to provide. Men know how to give something except give their humanity. And a lot of people don't talk about that.
That's so true, if I may. One of the things that I had a discussion about a couple of weeks ago was this. Growing up, because of my perception of how men were supposed to be, when I got to my teenage years and was dating a little bit and everything, I remember I could be very sarcastic with, if I felt like the guy was throwing me shade or whatever, I would be very sarcastic because in my perception and my understanding, it was like men are not emotional. So I would speak my mind at the time. And one of the guys said to me, and I can't remember who it was, but he said, that hurt my feelings. And I was like, I was literally like, say what? But it truly impacted me that he said, you hurt my feelings. I was like, I literally was saying, oh, it changed the trajectory of how I related from that point forward, because I didn't have any intent in my heart to be evil, but I literally had the social construct said that men don't move from a space of emotion. And that was just very recently that hit me. I said, okay, wow. So yeah, I do appreciate, like he said, I appreciate that we're in a culture now where we're deconstructing the idea that men don't have that space, and that there is a space for them to emote. And I'm very happy that we're in that space, because I had a son that was very, very tied to his emotions, and so there were comments made about him at times, but it's like he's just deep because he was able to express, So anyway, I'll start
Yeah,
talking.
if you and it's changed. If you were emotional, as a man or as a child, they called you gay.
See,
Man up.
I
Stop
just
being
didn't
gay.
realize,
Man up.
that was it. They called him. It's like, let me tell you, this little boy is far from being gay. Okay, do trust and believe. Anyway, but yeah, that's exactly the narrative.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, this is something that we talked about very much on Brother Empowerment. I mean, we even had, there's a point in time where I think for a whole season, we read off statistics that were related to this at the beginning of a show. And it's like Al said, and like Jay and everyone else has said, like, men tend to suffer in silence, and even if they don't want to, it's something that is drilled into a lot of men as young boys, that they have to, that they have to suck it up, or they have to like act like nothing affects them except certain things. I remember talking to um, a sister that I know, and she has a young son who's younger than 6, and she was saying, well, I make sure he don't cry like a little female dog. And I remember it just made me cringe on the inside, because I'm like, he needs to be able to cry and express himself, because when he gets older, if he spends his young young life not being able to cry or express himself, when he's frustrated or he's hurt, he's gonna lash out and hurt somebody. Exactly what he's gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's gonna be a lot of confused people around, and she might be one of them. And so that it's things like that, like, but a lot of it is definitely men suffering silence, and it's the pressures of patriarchy. We talk about it all the time, that patriarchy is not just a sword that, if it's looked at as a sword that men wield, then that sword definitely comes back and hits us too. It may not chop off a limb, but it definitely does graze the flesh, sometimes deeper, because we suffer from that too. Like Jay said, men are taught to be servants and to serve until basically they give out, like they're a beast of burden or something. That's what a lot of young men are taught, to serve and to give until you don't have any more. And that contributes to it. And of course, the lack of areas that we can go to feel safe, not just to talk or to vent, but to feel safe. If there's quite a few men that Jay and I talk to in public and in private that say they want someone to talk to, but they don't feel comfortable talking to people because they're afraid of, or they've experienced, or both, their information that they provide or they give in confidence being used against them. That's a very, very real fear that a lot of men have, because a lot of them have experienced it before, or they've seen it happen to someone else. And I know what that's like to have information that you that you confide in to your loved one used against you like a bludgeon instrument
Mm.
that will scar you. It'll make you fearful of opening up to that person or other people because you don't want to experience that.
Yeah, and I think that like when we talk about suicide, people always look at it as a cowardice approach or a selfish approach versus somebody really sitting there assessing life and saying it is better that I don't exist.
Mm.
And I have
Mm.
been in that same boat where I have contemplated suicide and I did share with some people I thought was close, but you're right. They do throw it up in your face. They label it as if you contemplate committing suicide or even have attempted suicide, they act as if you're unstable in all areas of your life. You know, if you disclose that one time, now they're like, well, you know, he crazy. He tried to commit suicide.
Absolutely. And
And
Mm-hmm.
it's sad how they do that, or they're like, what you know about it? You wanted to kill yourself. You like, it's never okay to kind of bring it up in those matters. But people feel like once you share something, they have jurisdiction on how to use it. And a lot of times they do use it in a way where it makes you feel smaller and make you think about it more than when you did when you were just keeping it to yourself.
mm,
And
Yeah.
so a lot of people don't understand that. And I think being a man, people don't understand the struggles of just being a man. And when you add complexities to it, like race and any other demographic, it gets even worse. Like, no matter how intelligent I am, and I tell you this until I'm blue in the face, no matter how intelligent I am, no matter how many credentials I have, no matter how much experience I have, at the end of the day, some people is going to treat me less than because of the color of the skin and because of my gender.
mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm.
I can't even tell you the amount of times people just assume that I don't know things about my children just because I'm a man.
Mm,
Yes. Yes. I have
mm,
experienced that. Yep.
mm, mm,
And
mm,
it's
mm,
so
mm.
frustrating. And then we don't get, especially black men, don't get an opportunity to have a bad day. Heaven forbids if we get emotional.
Yeah.
If we get emotional one day publicly, it could be our last, literally, because if we don't take our life, somebody will feel like they can take our life.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mm.
And so I feel like it's a lot that goes into this why men feel like it is better that I exit than stay.
Wow. I just want to piggy at Cordell. When he was talking a few minutes ago, I was reflecting on my son. One of the last time I saw my son before he was murdered. Um, we were riding in the car. He'd come back from California, and we were living. The rest of us were living in Houston, Texas at the time. And I noticed that there was a shift in the way that he communicated. And he said to me, "Mom, I used to ask a lot of questions. He loved to hear legacy. He loved to hear story, and he would always embrace stories and people. And he would ask questions. And at this point, he told me I think he was around 16 years old. He said, "Mom, I don't even go out like that anymore. I don't even talk about it anymore." He said, "Because I got shut down. And so I don't express myself, at the way that he used to, because it was like it was perceived as a weakness, or that he was emotionally engaging." And that hurt me to my heart, that he had to feel like he just couldn't be who he was because of the social constructs and the way that people perceived somebody that was willing to emote and to have conversations even. And he was a dark black man, and he went from being this little kid that everybody loved to growing up into this muscular black strong looking man. And then the people in our community at the time, which was a diverse community, and it was a beautiful community, they loved us all. But when he got to a certain age, it was like he started to see the women cross the street and that kind of thing. And that was a burden that I had to bear as a mom, and it was tough. So I'm so glad that I got a chance to be here tonight, because I had prayed for an opportunity to actually talk about the things that my son experienced, but it wasn't time yet. God just was not ready for that space. And so here we are today. I feel like I'm in a space where I'm allowed to say it, but it was at a point in time I just wasn't spiritually, God wasn't ready for me to talk about it yet. So we're here now, and so God knows everything. But yeah,
That's right.
this is a really
Yeah.
great opportunity to share.
I think two things to kind of piggyback off what you guys have said. Like one of the so even if you confide into someone and they don't bring up the actual suicide or thoughts of suicide, it also sometimes changes the way they treat you. So now they treat you like a person like who can't handle stress, or like they need to treat you with like padded gloves. Oh, you can't like something changed, like you can't handle the same amount of stress, or something's wrong with you. So that also makes you not want to confide into people. And the other reason I think that men commit suicide, you talked about the sacrifice. So men are expected to sacrifice, but we are also, it's a double-edged sword. Expected to sacrifice, but we're also looked at as like the lesser parent. The person is not as important. So then you start thinking as a man, if I'm not here, then my family will still be okay. They'll still move on. My kids will still be okay. And one of the things, like when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, one of the biggest reason I wanted to get out of the Marine Corps is because I missed my son's second birthday. I was in Kuwait, and I was like, never would that happen again. And I was like, it messed me up. Like I almost got in trouble, almost lost one of my stripes. And I remember talking to someone about it. I was talking to an older man, and I remember talking to him about it. It's like, oh, your child has your mother. They would have been all right. Look at LeBron. Look at all these other, famous people that grew up without a dad. They would have been all right. I was like, no, that's not the rule. That's just an exception to the rule. Like your kids need both parents.
Yeah,
right.
and it's
And
so
I was,
frustrating. Oh, I'm sorry.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was gonna kind of piggyback off, I guess, as men and suicide rate, and like y'all, we put so much on our plate. In addition to what we put on our plate, there's so much that we accept to be placed on our plate. Whether we have room on that plate, we're gonna find a way. And the average plate that we pick up as men is we're gonna always pick up a styrofoam plate, knowing good and well we need to get a glass plate. Now, I want y'all to follow what I'm saying. We'll pick up a styrofoam plate faster than we would getting a glass plate. And like if you put more and more food on the styrofoam plate, it's gonna keep crumbling. And what do we do as men? If it crumbles, let me just get another styrofoam plate and put it under that, hoping and praying and wishing that it's not gonna crumble. But like we accept so much, we put so much on our plate, and we take on a lot of burdens. We take on a lot of things that we know that we spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, and psychologically shouldn't even do, let alone consider. So it's like we put too much and we accept too much. And then when it starts to fall out of our palms or fall out of our hands, or we begin to break, when we begin to crumble, then we sometimes want to ask for help. And like, so we have to be realistic with ourselves, even with roles in the household. Like the average man, of course, there's nothing wrong with wanting a mansion, but if you can't afford it, don't try to live above your means to try to go afford these things. But unfortunately, sometimes we lead with pride. Sometimes, as my uncle would say, sometimes we think with the down low head than we do with the head up top. So it's like there's so many expectations that people put on us as men, but not to say that as an excuse. There's so many expectations that we accept as men, and sometimes we make a lot of bad decisions. And then of course it adds to the ratio of the suicide rate in men when we don't open up, when we don't vent, when we don't do the things that are necessary. Like the guy said earlier, it's got to come out somewhere, and unfortunately it may have to come out in our lives being lost. But I mean, what I say to that, y'all, is as men and even as women, y'all, overall we have to do better. It's okay to admit if I ain't got it. It's okay to say I don't want to do it. It's okay to say not right now. It's
Mm.
okay not to live up to somebody else's standards. It's okay to say no. And something that I feel like Jay would say, no is a complete sentence. And I'm okay. And I'm okay with that. Like, I can look at every social construct in the book, but I'm okay with saying, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to live up to their expectation because they think because I'm a man, I'm supposed to do this. No. If I can't afford that mortgage for the next 20, 30 years, I'm going to still check male or man or African American at the end of the day, whether I go and get a triple wide trailer. Because at the end of the day, I have my own expectations and I want to live. But I mean, don't get me on that high horse because I'll go on another 45 minutes. But that's just my thoughts. But overall, y'all, we got to do better as men and as women. But that's the life we live in, unfortunately.
I definitely agree with you. I think that it's kind of like also at this point in where we are, I think in society, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg type thing. Which came first, the plate or the expectation of the plate? It's like,
That's right.
and the other thing is we cannot, because we're talking about depression, suicide, and all of that. We can't diminish the weight of societal constructs outside the home. So we use this example a lot. The woman may be okay with you being a stay-at-home dad, but when she go out in the world, you still have to contend with that, and that can cause a strain on even the healthiest of relationships because if you hear 10 times a day all day long, well, he ain't no real man, he ain't taking care of you, or you letting your wife work, you hear that, people sometimes are not even mad at each other, end up stressing out about something because, or the dynamic you talk about, like we live in Holly Springs anyway, where it's a lot of affluent people. Holly Springs, Fuquay, Apex, a lot of affluent people over here. If you don't have this, the society make you feel bad because they can afford certain things. You be like, I don't, like me, I don't go out to eat every day. I can't afford that. I'm on a budget. But some other people, they do like lunch dates like it ain't nothing. I'd be like, I sit there and drink a coffee with you, but I'm not gonna. But it's these pressures that we contend with, and I think that those are the things that also are pushing that same plate down. I love that plate analogy. It's like somebody coming on with their elbow while you holding your plate and lean on your plate too while you sitting there holding it. Because it's these forces that we didn't necessarily ask for that we still have to wrestle with that makes it twice as hard. Yes, they're the controllables, but then there's just some uncontrollables that we contend with on a day-to-day basis that kind of just like, whoa, that I think that alone, I think the uncontrollables outweigh the controllables sometimes, and that what makes it so stressful.
I hear that. I hear that too. But if I take, and I'm sorry, I didn't get his name, but
John,
the John and Al. So if I combine the two narratives of John and Al, it's like I don't give a about what's going on outside of myself because when I become comfortable with who I am and understand my purpose, I don't care what y'all think about that. I don't care what y'all think about what I'm doing. And so like John said, we need to do better about just owning the space that we want to be in. And I'm not taking your statement lightly. I get that, but that is a burden we choose to bear because we're not supposed to compare ourselves among ourselves. And so when we get to the point where we don't allow the patriarchies and the social constructs to determine how we decide to move in the earth, then we can do better because we own our own space, and that's y'all's business. But this is what I have to do right here. I'm just, I don't want to be pontificating, but I just have observed how it works. And I was like, you know what? Patriarchies will not determine where I'm going, how I'm going to move, because this season right now, I have dreams about what I want to do. But right now I have to be in this space. And I don't care if y'all don't think I'm cool because I'm not driving the, 2020, 2023 when it's still 2022. I don't have to do that. I can use the car that I bought back when I was in Houston 11 years ago, 200 and some thousand miles on it. I've only had to replace a battery, and I'm good with that. I had to make that decision because it works for me. I don't have to worry about a car note, all of that. It's like when we can get beyond that American dream, which is a social construct that's been used to define who we're supposed to be, that ain't even a thing. I'm on a soapbox, but anyway, it ain't a thing. It
Look,
ain't a
this
thing.
side of the screen is the soapbox. We
Huh?
got John and Carol going back, talking about I'm not gonna get on this soapbox. We're like, get on it. It's okay.
Because we know we can take it there, and you may not be able to stop us.
Right. But it's fine. Bruce Leroy said, good evening. I don't know if this has been said, but I feel black men need to see black male therapists. I think it's easier to open up, vent, and accept help from people who identify with our day to day and our struggles. John, that's a plug in for you.
Okay.
Go
Now,
see John.
I agree with what he's. I mean, I agree with what he said. You know, to a certain extent of being comfortable, and I think that entire paragraph of what he said, the term that I took out was being comfortable. Um, just like imagine walking into like a giant room, thousands of people. Like, what are we gonna do culturally? We're gonna walk towards those that look familiar to us, those that we may be comfortable with, and that's just kind of what we do. So I'm like, I'll promote what he put because I'm a firm believer in seeking help. If you would rather go to somebody that looks like you, by all means, do what you got to do. My thing is go to somebody that's willing, that's relatable, that can help you, no matter if they're black, blue, green, orange, or white. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
therapy is needed. But I suggest if it's a comfort thing, go for what you're comfortable in doing. Because the more comfortable you are, the more you're usually going to vent. But sometimes in our culture, sometimes certain things that we call comfortable, sometimes we take advantage of it. But I mean, when it
Oh
comes to
Lord.
therapy and counseling, like, hey, do what we got to do when it comes to being comfortable. But that's another 3 hour spiel about taking advantage because I felt it in somebody's spirit when I said that, but we ain't gonna take it there. But I get
Man,
it.
let me tell you,
Yeah,
because
I think
yeah,
guys, I think sometimes people use that as a crutch. Like we know that we haven't gotten to this place that there's a lot of black male therapists. Like we do need that. We need black males in every realm. But I had a black male therapist and loved it. Like he had a specialty in in Christianity and in like issues of black people. So I love that. Like I was spoiled, and then he moved away. So
Mhm.
now my therapist is
Dang.
a white woman, but I still confide into her, and she's still helpful. Like I think that definitely you need a therapist. Like it is important to have one.
oh, we got some. Look, they screaming therapy.
Therapy,
Hey, big
therapy.
sis Tara.
Yep.
It's
So
needed.
it's perfect that we're saying that too, because here we go. Let's talk about this, and this is probably gonna take us on out. What does a safe space for men look like?
It
Man,
depends. That's a like I'm a vibe and an energy person. Like if the energy is good while I'm in your presence, we'll probably click. Like if you seem like a person I don't mind venting to, then we'll probably talk. But if I got a bad vibe, if I got bad energy in which my bad vibe or energy could be wrong, I'm gonna usually run with that. But I think it really just depends on the person. Like we're human, we have different cadence that we go off. Like sometimes it's energy, sometimes it's vibe, sometimes it's how a person speaks, sometimes it's how a person looks, sometimes it's the scent of a person. But it really just depends on the energy to me.
Oh, I love that. Kim said, guys, she said I had to search high and low to find a black male therapist for my child. He asked for one, and I found one. Why do I feel like that's how she said it?
Make it happen, mama.
Hmm.
Make it happen.
Uh-huh.
I think it's a little easier.
Mama gonna make it
I
happen.
think it's slightly easier now because, when the pandemic hit, a lot of therapists went virtual. So I
Mhm.
think it's a little easier now, unless you just want someone to see in person. Um, but I'll say a safe space for men and whew, um, just something that I believe that Jay and I are very well versed in. Well, for two reasons. One, because hey, he's he's one of my safe spaces for real. So, but also because we talk to so many brothers, just period. We talk to a large number of brothers, and I'll say a safe space at the baseline is definitely what John said about the energy and the aura surrounding that space being something you can be comfortable in, but also at the baseline, an area where you know that whatever you express is going to be kept confidential unless you deem it otherwise, that it can be put out there. But that's a big part of safe spaces for men, and that's not something that I'm just saying for me, but from men that we talk to, that's a big part of that. That whatever they say or they express is going to stay in the vault, and it's a space of it's non-judgmental. It's not critical. It's just an area of where men can just be. That's what real safety is, where you can just be without fear of someone putting a microscope on you or dissecting what you're expressing and putting it in their pocket for later so they can take the pin out of the grenade and throw it back at you. You know what I mean? Like that's what
One more time. Say that one more time. One more time.
What the part where they can't use what you say or express and take the pin out the grenade and throw it back at you. Yeah,
Yeah, all that.
but yeah, that's real safety right there. You know, that's what a safe space. That's what it looks like, and that's what it's constructed with. Those are the bricks and the cement and all that. That's made of for that safe space.
I love that. Tara said, lessons learned are forgot in the next breath. Truth applies to the big and the small. People don't spend enough time recognizing what impacts them daily. The mind doesn't recognize the difference from big trauma or lesser trauma. We have to train ourselves to survive.
It's always coming through with the boulders.
Yeah,
Right.
do some reflection. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Go ahead.
Jack. I think a safe space for men. I think one of the things that we need to understand and really kind of think about, like, vulnerability is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody gives you their vulnerability, it's a gift. Like, you don't have to be, especially for a man, because they're not being vulnerable with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at it as a gift and not a burden. The other thing is that there has to be an exchange of vulnerability. And it has to be, vulnerability happens at different levels. Because somebody feels like they're vulnerable with you and they tell you their deepest, darkest secrets. And if you don't feel like you can do the same, but at least give them something. Because they need to feel safe and they need to feel like this is an exchange and not a one-sided relationship. One-sided relationships make me extremely uncomfortable, where people want to listen and they want to help you and they want to serve you, but they don't want to let you do the same. Like that is how you build like real friendships and relationships, when you both digging in the dirt together and you guys are going through stuff. Like you don't make real relationships partying together and having good times. It's when you have those bad times and you guys are vulnerable together. That's how you build a real relationship.
Truly.
Terrace just said, look, another component is a true safe space is an exchange of trust and truth. It's not just venting and purging. The person should be capable of listening and pouring back into you. I'll just hit this. Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm with John. I'm more of a vibe person and a spirit person. Like, if something is off, I trust my instinct. I don't force myself anymore in spaces or environments that just doesn't feel comfortable. And I do have a strict confidentiality clause. If I tell you something and that something is told somewhere else, I don't care how it got out there. I no longer trust you. because there should be a level of confidence. Now, I understand if I say it's okay to share, but if I don't give you permission and I come to you in confidence and you share, it's like I'm done. I no longer feel safe with you because if you are if you are irresponsible with my innermost thoughts and my secrets, you can do even more harm to me.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that I have found that I've noticed, and it's kind of is weird that Al said that, is like people who are extremely secretive, I find myself being able to trust them more. Because if they go through them depths to keep their life a secret, imagine what they'll do with anything they tell you.
That's a good point. That's a good
And
point.
so, and I've just found like the truly extreme, the truly secretive and private individuals are some of the closest people to me because you will never know what's going on in their life because they're like a vote. They are. They will shut stuff down. You won't know what's going on unless they want you to. And a lot of my closest, the people that are closest to me and the people I feel most safe to are those people who live their lives exactly like that. And I think that is needed because a lot of times there's always seemed like there's this battle of the sexes, like why men go so hard for their boys. I don't think men go so hard for their boys because they're attracted to them. They go hard for their boys because that's the only place that they're safe. And I can say that for black men, there are not a lot of places we feel safe. Only another black man really understands what we deal with. Yes, there are people that can relate, but there are certain things that a black man goes through that only another black man truly understand, where we don't have to keep explaining down to the minute things about it. It's like they just get it.
Mm.
And
Get that
sometimes
vibe.
we just need somebody to just get it. It ain't even
Yeah.
about what is being exchanged. It's like, get it. And I think that that's the part that people miss, that sometimes it's just a place where a person can truly unveil themselves and just be. That.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel you. Like every part of your life shouldn't be up to social media consumption.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all gonna get off of social media. I like social media. Leave it alone. John was talking about it earlier. Leave social media alone. Leave it alone.
You ain't do nothing to y'all.
But look, people got everything. Like, look, this is what I ate for breakfast. This is what I ate for dinner. Look,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
washing my
Well.
feet. Like,
I'm gonna do that one day. I'm gonna be like, hey y'all, I just went to the bathroom. I just checked the mail.
look, I'm saying, look, I'm waiting for somebody to go live while they're on the toilet. I'm waiting. Like
Somebody gonna
that
do it.
women's commercial. Women poop too. Like, I'm waiting for it.
Look, I thought about that because that's where the good thoughts come from, the throne room.
That's wrong.
I'm trying to tell you.
Before the throne answers be
I'm
coming.
trying to tell you.
Oh my God, that is too funny.
So guys, we have made it to dog. See, that hour went by fast. Didn't care. You was worried about it. Look how fast it went by.
It's gone. It is gone.
So
Thank you.
no problem. Any final thoughts that you want to leave with anybody, any man or any person that's loving a man? Any final thoughts that y'all would like to leave? Carol, I'll start with you.
Ooh, man.
Or you need 60 seconds. You need 60
No, I
seconds.
just let me say that. Just let me come back on again, and then we can do some more. We can have some more conversations. No, seriously, this is a space that I have wanted. I was just like, when is he gonna have something? He's just gonna ask me to come in, and you did it tonight. My manifestation, my thought became a thing. So I'm here. So I hope I get to be with you guys again. I appreciated the first time that I ended up logging on after finding patience. I really appreciated that space. But I just love, this is what needs to happen all the time. I mean, a lot. I'm just so grateful. I didn't tell anything. I didn't really share anything. I'm just saying, let it happen some more. And I have all kinds of thoughts in my head up in my head.
How many you got, Carol? Tell us about them.
Okay, never mind. Don't do that.
We're gonna judge it now. Be like, which head talking?
She about to send you a 10-page
I can't
email
do that
after this live.
I just have so
It's gonna
many
be a
thoughts
post. It's gonna be a
I have
10-page
so
post.
Are you gonna let me finish?
I'm sorry.
I
Go
have
ahead.
so many thoughts about what can happen because I just see, you guys coming into space where it's like, okay, so especially the single moms bringing their boys and having a forum for them something with them coming in and being in these spaces as they come through. That's what I'm envisioning behind what you guys are doing, because this is really, really, really important. Because my son's legacy, is in here, and because y'all is heavy carrying a Black son, and I didn't have enough time with my son. So based on the things that happened in his life, and in that his life was cut short at 19 years old, there's just a space for the expansion of what you guys are doing right here. And I just want to again say thank you for this space.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Pastor John, you gonna come next?
All right, I keep mine to a sentence. So, well, 2 sentences.
I don't know.
I'm gonna keep it 2 sentences.
I'm sorry.
Not
Oh
two
no, no,
sentences.
no, no shade towards you, Carrie. I just know me.
It's all right.
I'll say it. I'll say it towards men and women. Y'all, let's stop living above our means mentally, emotionally, financially, and physically.
Oh, that's a good one.
And that's
Ooh,
what
that's
I'll say.
Good.
Oh, I'm gonna steal that. That's gonna be showed later.
Hey, for
Steal it.
real.
It'll be you saying it though, but I'm just saying I'm about to cut that part of the video out.
You know what I mean?
It'll be used. You'll see it tonight.
You gonna do a voiceover?
It's gonna
That's
be
it.
his voice. It's just gonna be on my social media.
It's gonna be a snippet. It's gonna be a snippet.
He don't like social media anyway. I love that. I love that.
It is so real.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What you got, Al the Great?
So one of the realest things I've heard probably this month is that being a man isn't fair. Being a man isn't fair. Being a husband isn't fair. I teach my kids that life isn't fair, but you can make it just. And even to make it just, you got to force it. Like you really have to force it. So I think once we get to this place where we understand as men that it's not fair to be a man, you are looked at to sacrifice, and that means a lot. Whether it be your life, whether it be a lot of other stuff. This is just not going to be fair. But it is important that you learn how to walk in it in a healthy way, and that means therapy. That means having a safe space. That means getting to know who you are, so you can really hold that burden. Because before Eve came, Adam had a job. I'm sure you guys heard this. He had a job. He had responsibility. Like he had all this other stuff before Eve even got there. So he had himself even before that. So as men, if we can do the same thing, like it'll help us deal with this pressure even better.
Cordell, what sermon you got? Because it's 3 preachers already now. What you gonna preach?
That's
he done lean forward. Now go.
That's not me, man. But I'll say, man, the one that asking people how are you healing, and that might be something that you really want to start really asking people, just to show some concern for people and to show them that you really care. And the other thing I'll say is, aside from that, this was super dope, as always, is that, man, when people talk about safe spaces and especially men, they're talking about safe spaces in there and they're wanting to find them or to say there aren't any, like really do a self-check. And like Terry was saying and Al was saying, like, if you're looking for a safe space, do a self-check and see if you have the capacity to be one. You know what I mean? Like,
that's good.
Because that might be why you can't find one yourself, because you don't have the kind of bandwidth or the kind of, dare I say, emotional credentials to even step in one. You're you know what I mean? Your heart card ain't good. It don't check out.
Yeah.
So,
you ain't willing to make the exchange.
Yeah, like your currency ain't good. So I would say do a self-check and really see if you have enough, like I said, bandwidth to be in that space, to be that for someone else. because it's unfair to ask for what you are not even willing or to provide. That's not a reciprocal relationship like we were talking about. And I'm a fan of letting the non-reciprocal relationships die out.
I feel you on that, man. Thank you for that. That's
Yeah.
good.
That's
He
what I got.
preached. He talking about he ain't had no word and had a whole word. I knew it was something when you mounted your little virtual pulpit. When that back got
Look,
straight, you was ready. You
Put the
leaned
mic.
forward
You
too.
put the microphone up there.
Right. He had something to say. Guys, I just thank you for this. I think a lot of times people try to give mental health, strength, even masculinity and identity when it doesn't. It's us. It's us collectively. It's these conversations. And I think that we have to stop trying to make something look like something and just be. And I hope that we do continue to have these type of conversations and making it normal. And just like how, Dr. John said earlier, like, be okay with advocating for yourself and being emotional when need be. If you need to get something out, get it out. Tell them that it's not okay. Like I've been seeing a therapist since I was 19 years old. And because certain events happened in my life, I ended up not only having a therapist, I ended up having an international life coach, a business coach, you know what I mean? And a health coach. Because you need things based on where you are, and be okay with being who you are first, because that's how healing starts. You got to accept what's going on, acknowledge what's going on, and then progress forward. But blanket yourself with people who mean you well.
Yes.
And release the obligation of being around people just because it's expected of you. Be what you're created to be, not what you're expected to be, and acknowledge who you are and the things that you need in your life. Anybody who's watching this, if you need to connect with anybody on this podcast, please do so. We're going to be tagging their information. Matter of fact, Carol and John, when this is over, would you be sure to tag your information? The best way to contact you guys.
Sure.
Al, go and put your stuff in now if you ain't did it already. But guys, and of course, you can always reach out to us if you need assistance from anybody. We'll make sure that you get in contact with them. But here's the thing: stop going through things alone.
Yes.
Yes, you may feel alone. Yes, you may have endured hardship. Yes, you may have endured disappointment. Yes, it may have been a lot of negative things that happened in your life, but that doesn't define you. You're in a positive place, and there are people who are waiting to love on you. So allow yourself to remove yourself from all the things of what you thought life was about, and experience the beauty of what life truly is with you in it.
Yes.
So don't leave prematurely. Don't leave prematurely. Stay with us. And we want to help you get through together. Guys, I thank y'all for being on. John, I knew you would be the perfect one, especially after you made me do the George Jefferson. And we hug, but you are an amazing person in what you're doing. Carol, thank you for coming on. Al, you know I love you. Look, guys, y'all know we family. And if you need any of us, please reach out. Don't try to go through anything alone. And John, I'm gonna hold you to it. Be emotional with us too. Just don't cuss us out no more. I'm joking. But no, definitely, guys. Let's stay connected and let's get through these transitions together. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. And we're out. Love you guys.
Love y'all. Thank you.